Twinkle, twinkle, how did it go? Twinkle, twinkle, little bat, how I wonder where you're at. Yes, that was it. Up above the world, you fly. Moon, Mars, Jupiter? Some smoking satellite flung off the sun? No, none of these. But the summit of Mount Etna, thrusting through the clouds above Europe. A new look upon an old world. Beginning, there was darkness and chaos. The long volcanic agonies forcing up the tortured rock to break surface in steaming, cooling seas. The glaciers, grinding, smoothing, polishing. Then wind and tide. Their slow erosion, molding, shaping an intricate pattern of land and water. And after, long, long after, along the rivers, up into the caves of the barren hills, down into the new green valleys, came ourselves. The march of armies, the tread of pilgrims, the creak of oar and sail. So began the endless movement across the land and waters, drawing us together for a fuller existence, a richer life.
Amis d'Europe 1, bonjour. Ce matin, en venant au studio, j'ai vu un assez terrible accident à l'angle des Champs-Élysées et de l'avenue Montaigne.
The same green valleys, but richer now. The same basic pattern. Plow, sow, harvest. Home and hearth, family, companionship, the people next door. To fetch and carry, to buy and sell, to give and take. The same human need to draw nearer together, to bridge the gulf of distance and destroy the miles. 5 centuries ago, when the port of Lisbon was small, the great Portuguese navigator set sail from her gateway to discover new worlds across the Atlantic. And those new worlds prospered in their turn as the paths from the old became highways. New ships, flying the colors of many nations, destroying distance 100 times faster. Now the people next door live 3,000 miles away and include the Harry Smiths of Montreal and the John Does of New York State. Now each capital and major city is its own port for the world.
Arrivé dans quelques minutes d'un avion Air France en provenance de Lisbonne. I passeggeri in partenza per Roma sono pregati di andare in sale del diparto. Award Mr. Anderson, coming from Montreal, please report to information depot personal message. Mr. Anderson. The airplanes are
Amid the traffic over Europe, watch and ward is kept by pilots of many nations. Among them, Harry Smith of Montreal and John Doe from New York State. For the coming together, the give and take, the mutual responsibility is now that wide. So now up above the world you fly. Fly west to find the Atlantic shores. Fly east, if you wish. Or fly north to find the sun at midnight. The 6 months sun, for it is the long summer sunlit midnight beyond the Arctic Circle. Valhalla, home of the northern gods. For Europe, the beginning and the end, the North Pole, barely over the horizon. Northern Norway, mountain and rock, fjord and island, countless in number. Where land is unyielding, men have always lived with the sea. And from these shores embarked the Vikings to make new landfalls in Iceland, Greenland, and the coast of North America by oar and sail. All languages in the airspace, but the common tongue, English.
On patrol X6 Northern Waters, calling border control. A sighted merchant ship, approximately 13,000 tons, and heading 095. Present position 66 degrees north, 08 degrees east.
Control. SAS Flight 544, calling Castrop Control.
Castrop Control to 544.
Approaching you from the north, present position Elsinore. Present position Elsinore.
To be or not to be? That was the question. Yes, we know, but Prince Hamlet was a gloomy Dane and quite untypical of Denmark. Take instead Hans Christian Andersen and his stories of the tin soldier who fell in love with a dancing doll, of the little girl who sewed shirts for the swans, who hovered over the palace where their father lived, hoping to become princes again. Stories, too, of the capital of the oldest kingdom in the world, a country of 500 islands, Copenhagen. Slender spires, waterways, palace, Tivoli, and of course, Andersen's Little Mermaid. Not to mention his flying trunk. That was the one you got into, pressed the lock, and it took you further and further away, until at last you came to the land of the Turks, where all the people wore slippers and dressing gowns. In Holland, men decide the shape of land and water. For though God made the world, the Dutch are still making the Netherlands for themselves. Steadily the dikes grow longer and the sea falls back. New land, and more new land where plows still turn up seashells. But in between, water. Water for boating at weekends.
Is moment I guess full or girlie does please. My love, he has torn
Blue leader to Blue 2. This is not a flying circus. Get back into formation.
Okay, Ringmaster. Here I come.
Rotterdam, Antwerp, once mere villages, now giants of trade and commerce. Bruges, once a great port, now dreaming over her past wealth. For the old world changes. Gone are her merchant princes of earlier centuries, bequeathing their cities to the grime and soot of the ugly, practical, revolutionary 19th. The Ruhr, the Saar, Lorraine. No longer just regions of Germany, Belgium, France, or Luxembourg, but one industrial community. Coal and steel, the revolution of the 19th century. And the 20th? A century of new power, exciting, experimental. Soon every man's doorstep, his own port for the world. Paris, tourism. Where's the guidebook, then? Paris. Page 53. The golden dome of the Hotel des Invalides. What's that? Wait a minute, I've lost the place. Here, take the book yourself, you're on your own. But careful, don't go too low. Notre Dame and the Ile de la Cité, the oldest Paris of all. The Seine and her bridges, and the Paris of the French kings. The Louvre, the Tuileries. And then Paris saw the kings replaced by a little corporal who became an emperor. The Place de la Concorde. The Champs-Élysées. Of course, you should have been there on the 14th of July, but no matter. Well, it's an old truth that every man has two countries, his own and France.
Sur les marches du palais, y a-t-il une belle fille long là? Y a-t-il une belle fille? N'en sont trois amoureux. N'en sont trois amoureux.
Berlin.
This is the British Forces Broadcasting Service in Berlin, and here are the Berlin local announcements read by Eddie Vickers. Now some news about the Airbridge Club at RAF Qatar. Bingo's played on Monday evening starting at 8:30 p.m. The Monday session is in addition to the regular Thursday evenings bingo.
Watch and ward.
Red leader to red 3. Red leader to red 3. Close in.
Red 3 to red leader. Is this close enough? I say, you do need a haircut.
Okay. Turning port onto course for Rhine Mine.
The Rhine, the river that once divided the continent, a frontier of suspicion and strife. But now trains go back and forth, barges go up and down, the busy traffic of 5 countries, beneath old castles, with nothing left to fight over but their memories.
Hier ist Munich Control. Ich rufe Lufthansa Flug 31 von Düsseldorf. Sie können landen.
Now the land rises, and you, traveler, must rise with it. For though the Alps no longer divide north from south, Teuton from Latin, European from European, they still make a formidable wall. Shades of Hannibal's elephants, the Grande Armée in the snow. Up and up, the Zugspitz, the Wetterhorn, up to the climax of the continent, Mont Blanc.
Data ricevuto, passo.
The language changes, the weather changes, the land changes. Italy. Galileo's, Da Vinci's, and Michelangelo's Italy, rolling through the pines toward the Tiber's valley. Stones worn by chariots and the tread of legions, the Via Appia, leading like all roads to Rome. While the Colosseum shall stand, Rome shall stand. When the Colosseum falls, Rome shall fall. And when Rome falls, so falls the world. The Rome of the Caesars fell, but Imperial Rome was only one of many cities here. Century after century, Rome rose upon Rome. Rome upon Rome. Eternal. The Mediterranean, the Bay of Naples. But even here, the weather isn't always fine. Not smoke from Vesuvius, but cloud streaming over the bay to Capri.
This is Palermo Control. Here's weather for Capri, Stromboli, Sicily. Wind 35 knots from 240 degrees. 7-8 coverage at 4,000 feet. Light rain over the Adriatic. Conditions improving to clear skies over Greece.
Clear skies over Greece. In this city, Pericles said, we are a model to others. Our constitution is called a democracy, with power not in the hands of a minority, but the whole people. Clear skies over Greece, the Iliad, the Odyssey, and all the timeless myths of the gods on high Olympus. In good heart, Ulysses captained his craft to catch the wind and steer a straight course. At last, the Trojan Wars were at an end, and all the Greek warriors had returned home. All save himself, Ulysses, king of Ithaca, doomed by conflicting fates to years of wandering. Drifting, becalmed, first was Ulysses cast up on the shores of the Lotus Eaters. And when he forced his men to leave, then did the gods grant him a following wind. On to the haunts of the Cyclops, on to the home of Aeolus, warden of the winds, walled with bronze and cliffs sheared up from the sea. Circe and the Sirens, Scylla and Charybdis, and then a breathless calm, till Ulysses, keeping his watch, saw land close by where dwelt the fair Calypso. 7 years he stayed, and thence to the island of the children of the sun who light the world. My friends, said Ulysses, east and west mean nothing to us here, for where the sun rises and where he sets, we do not know. But when Ulysses sailed again for Ithaca,
here is scale in flight 368, thunderstorm on track, altering course to starboard.
Then spoke Poseidon, god of all the seas. I mean to let him have his belly full of trouble yet. And 2 nights the tempest howled around his ship. Then Zeus, father of all the gods, took pity on Ulysses. The clouds rolled back. The sun broke through. So that at last, in his 10th year of wandering, Ulysses found again his home of Ithaca and took his good wife Penelope into his arms. The horizons of Asia, marked with the endless passage of men, west to east, east to west. Here men saw the passing of Alexander the Great of Macedonia, St. Paul, Marco Polo. Here were Troy, Ephesus, and Tarsus. And here was the heart of the great Turkish Ottoman Empire. Stretching from the mountains, where the Ark rested on Ararat, to the borders of Turkey in Europe, the Mediterranean, and the Black Sea. Watch and ward, and those who keep it here bear the star and crescent, the emblem of the young state built by Ataturk. The Bosphorus, two shores, two continents, Europe and Asia. And astride the narrows, a city, Istanbul. Roman aqueducts, Orthodox churches, Turkish mosques. A city that men called the Great City. And that's how it all is, traveler, from the Arctic Ocean to the Golden Horn. An old world of many nations and many flags, with different languages and different ways of life. But in spite of it all, drawn together by something they have in common, something they think worth having, something they think worth keeping. What are those men running for?
Dixie controller to blue lead. Climb on vector 270 to 40,000 feet. Investigate unidentified object.
Some character floating around without telling anybody, no doubt.
Controller to blue lead. Clear to roll.
Never mind. As I was trying to say, hey, what's this to starboard? And look behind you. There's another. Oh. So that's it. The unidentified object, I fear, traveler, is you.
Halt! Who goes there?
Look, I'm sorry you've had to get off the ground like this. It's just a friend of mine.
Advance, friend, and be recognized. Pass, friend, on your way.